I want to welcome you to Managing Change in the New Year. My name is James Osborne. I am a psychologist, a licensed clinical addiction specialist, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm Director of Community Education and Outreach with Community Health and Wellbeing at Alliance Health. Definitely, as we are facing into the new year, we start having questions about how to manage change. Will the pandemic ever end? What are my goals for the new year? How do I take care of myself? What's going to remain the same and what's going to change? So we want to talk about some strategies and ways in which we can maintain some of the changes that we might have had in 2001 and look at how we can make something different or remain the same or maintain our gains during 2002. So who is Alliance Health? You may already know, but always want to make sure that you know that we are a local management entity, a managed care organization, managing individuals that have Medicaid or who are uninsured, covered through state and county dollars. And we have just added and welcome Orange and Mecklenburg counties to the other counties that we have been serving in about the last decade or so. Want to highlight and encourage you to check out our annual report, which is located here. You can actually take your phone out and put that right up to the screen and take a picture of that picture, and you will that will take you directly to our website, which will give you the annual report, or again, just check out the website. So what are our values? What do we want to bring to the training today would be, of course, accountability and integrity, compassion for you, for the people that we serve, for their family members, our communities, with dignity and respect. We're always about collaborating and partnering with you, and this is one way in which we want to do that. Always looking for doing something a little bit different, looking at new ways, not always doing something outside of the box is innovation. Who are we covering? We are moving towards the tailored plan of Medicaid. Standard plans have already launched, and we are going to be serving the higher end of needs related to behavioral health, physical health, and pharmacy services coming later this year into next year. Part of the tailored plan county alignments is looking at who Alliance serves. We are the violet or purple colored on there. So you can see again, orange connected through the center of your screen, and then Mecklenburg down there, or Charlotte. We are also part of a statewide initiative called Hope for NC, which is related to COVID-19. We want to know that people are impacted by COVID. And we're talking about change today, and COVID is definitely something that is changing every day. CDC comes out with new rules and guidelines, ways in which you interact with others or choose not to, and ways you protect yourself definitely is an ongoing change. So know that help is available, help is on the line, and this phone number is available to you. Also, as healthcare workers, which would be yourself, individuals that are providing direct services, outward-facing individuals, teachers, help is available for you, and this is provided through the North Carolina Psychological Foundation. So I really want to encourage people to reach out and get help. So here's our first tip for the day, and it's also connected to Hope for NC, and it's the acronym SCOOP. This is what I have been practicing since the pandemic hit, which has almost been a full 2 years ago now, and ways in which we can manage change that is occurring every day in your life. First of all, is around staying connected to family and friends, and connected in whatever way feels best for you. Resiliency is about our ability to bounce back. And so resiliency is so important. You also, this is going to talk about changes. Maybe you want to change is to love yourself more, to have more compassion for yourself, to take care of yourself as well as you do for other individuals. We always want to be observing our use of substances and know that it is okay. It's okay to not be okay. And also it's okay to ask for help. And the last strategy daily here is about how can you improve your mood would be related to exercise. Just move. That's what Michelle Obama said. So that could be a walk. That could be just getting up and moving around in your home or your space, or it can be something more active. You choose, you be you, whatever is the best match for your needs. So know that Alliance is always available. Again, I want to create a safe space today for conversation. If I say things that might trigger you or stir things up too intensely and you feel like this is too much, it's okay to ask for help, to reach out to myself or to reach out to our call center. This is always available 24/7. To our entire community. So know that help is on the line. And again, picking up the phone can be some of the most challenging steps. I'm part of the community health and well-being team, and we are about working together with our hometowns to connect people to social and community supports and enhancing recovery and well-being. Our impact is about redesigning systems to improve health outcomes and promote communities. And we do that by, first of all, reducing stigma, which is the biggest barrier, in my opinion, that keeps people from getting help, which is really rooted in a lot of fear. We also want to help people access housing, which is a therapeutic intervention. We want to have innovative approaches, form partnerships, and have an impact on our community. And housing is we have a housing plan. I encourage you to check out all the housing options where we can provide access to decent, safe, affordable housing in a caring environment, and how we can provide connections to our communities that all keeps us well. So here's what I hope we do today. One, you get to challenge yourself by choice, so you can interact at whatever level you like. You can feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation, use your chat. You can unmute, which I call shout out. If you've ever seen Cash Cab, that's what it's called. They stick their head out, they shout out. You're welcome to do that. No judgment. That's really important. That, you know, there is all questions and all topics are welcome. Want to listen, be connected, take care of yourself, and hopefully, you know, I hope we have a little fun. So using the chat function, or you could also shout out, is what makes change stressful for you? What part of change do you not like? That is the icebreaker. I'm also going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen here and also share the whiteboard again and see if we can type something here on the screen. So you're also welcome to type things there. And I'll do mine first. For me, it's unpredictability. I mean, you just don't really ever know what's going to happen next. And other people are kind of typing in uncertainty. Okay, great. I got something on the screen. Thank you. So over on the chat too, we've got things coming up like a fear of getting hurt or pain. Yes, pain and change can be painful. It's uncomfortable. No warning or time to prepare. Yeah, we really just don't know what's going to happen next. Fear is a huge part that has an impact on change, uncertainty, unknown. Fear, yes, definitely related to not being in control. That definitely also has a part in that. Fear of the unknown, fear of out of control. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with control. A lot of it has to do with unknown. Okay, really helpful information. Great. All right, thanks for doing the icebreaker. And here's actually one more opportunity here is, what would you like to get out of the training today? What would be most helpful? What do you want to make sure that I address? So we could just use the chat function there. And again, I'm going to keep going back to this whiteboard since that seems to be working. So, and I'll clear that out each time. Anything else again? Some realistic skills. Okay, excellent. I'm definitely going to do that. Skills. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about dialectical behavior therapy, which is kind of cousin to cognitive behavior therapy, and it's all about skill building. And skill building is really about practice. I've recently picked up hot yoga as a way with a mask, believe it or not, hot yoga with a mask as a way of my wellness, and it's really, and they call it practice. So I go to practice, and that's what we do at Life. I'm here today to practice with you, getting some fresh perspectives and resources, learning tips and resources, ways to keep ourselves from burning out. Absolutely. So self-care is so important, and how to deal with low morale in coworkers. You're right. People are struggling. People are feeling the trauma and the loss related to COVID and other stressors in their life. And life is very different now. And definitely, Jen, we're definitely going to talk about hope, because hope is part of recovery. And recovery is what we're in at. We're in it right now. Recovery from COVID, or maybe hopefully we're starting that recovery process. But how do you have hope when the future can seem uncertain? Fantastic. Thank you very much. We're going to come back to here. So yeah, we're going to cover everything that you were just mentioning, and the other items on my agenda here about what are goals, how do we manage change versus acceptance, how do we one moment, gotta come back. It popped up here on my screen. I need to get that off. Okay, great. It went away. Okay, and identifying some stressors. How do we build resiliency, and also making sure that we get to your topics. So this is a place to start, because again, many people do New Year's resolutions. And so we are doing that. Part of that might be starting with setting some goals. So if you are going to have some goals, we want them to be very specific. To find a way of measuring those, how do you know when you're making progress? What's the first stop sign or point on that journey, versus just looking at the end point? What is the, how do we know that we're making progress, and how are you going to measure that? We also like to have it really like achievable, attainable, things that are realistic, that can give you some mastery and some feelings of success. I like to check things off the list and say, yes, I've done that. So that's part of it, also being achievable, also being relevant to you. Someone else's goals is not your goals, and also time limited. Do you want the goal to be a daily goal, a weekly, monthly, quarterly, half a year? When will you know? So those are some tips when you're writing goals for other people, but also some goals as to when you're doing it for yourself. You're also going to figure out, again, whether you want to write these down, put them in your phone. How do you want to record that? So many of our goals are related to these dimensions of wellness. So I want to encourage you to take a look at that. So if we start looking at wellness, many goals that I see right now is related to this physical health, and specifically diet. People want to lose weight, or they want to start up some sort of a new activity. This is a big time for gyms, but there may be other areas of your life that you may also want to look at wellness. So you may also want to look at your ways of improving your mind. So you may want to start crosswords, or you may want to improve your environment and do a DIY type of home project. We may want to start therapy or some other ways of managing yourself. There's also can be financial goals that you have for the new year, along with social. And then also maybe I want to return to church or have some other new spiritual. So all of these things can be part of your goals for the new year under your new wellness. So this is a place to start when we start thinking about change in the new year. At least this is where I would encourage you to start. And thinking about, I think, again, God can be however you want to define that, related to your higher power. But grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. So there's going to be things about myself that I cannot change. but I also want to have the courage to change the things that I can, and then the wisdom to know the difference. So this is really, again, serenity prayer that is used in a lot of Alcoholics Anonymous and 12 steps types of programs. And they, I'm not sure, but this keeps popping up. So maybe you're not seeing that up on the sides there, but I'm trying to get rid of that. And the other part of this serenity prayer is about, it continues. So this part 2 to this is living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, just for today. You're exactly right, Sarah. Accepting the hardships as the path to peace, taking this world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that things will be all right. And if I surrender to the will, so that I can be reasonably happy in this life, supremely happy in this life, and then also and forever and ever in the next. So this is going to kind of tie into kind of what we're going to talk about today, is about what do I want to change, but I want to, other side of that is also what do I need to kind of accept. Acknowledging reality as it is, not censoring, not denying, while being open to the possibilities. Tolerance does not always equal acceptance, and real people do make mistakes, and people are usually happier because they can. So part of this acceptance requires a tolerance of the experience. No matter how unpleasant it is, it's important that we have that. This acceptance does not mean that we're going to engage in problem solving or that change is necessarily going to be abandoned. But what is accepted today might be the focus of what we change tomorrow. What has happened in the past cannot be changed, but behaviors in the future can be changed to reduce likelihood of unwanted outcomes. And so we end up doing radical acceptance. Everything is only as it is. In other words, this Zoom, what we're doing right now, you sitting here, me sitting here, is what it is. And so that's all we have, is whatever is being experienced. So again, this is helpful when we're looking at, oh, there's things I want to change. Well, what is it that we want to change versus what is it better to be accepted? So this is one of my favorite analogies around acceptance, as being a gracious host who has an unexpected or even an unwanted guest. How many things have come into your life, people, places, and things that are definitely not what I was expecting, wanting, or I surely didn't ask for it. So the effective thing to do is to welcome this guest in, even though they're unexpected. Treat them well. You may not want to overly indulge them, but and then you kind of turn your maybe attention elsewhere. You're still aware of their presence, but you're not ruled by your feelings about them, and they don't become a part of your crowd or is not dominated. So this is, again, what is required when we talk about radical acceptance. Another part of radical acceptance is learning to love the dandelions. Many people value or like orchids, but they're just so fragile. They're pretty, but actually it's all flowers. So when we think about dandelions, one of the first questions to think about is, which statement describes you? Do you tend to be more self-loathing, self-improving, or self-accepting? So here's the story. Centuries ago, a man in the East took up gardening. He was highly pleased with the variety of flowers and vegetables he was able to grow, and he was a very adept gardener. However, his garden was plagued by these dandelions or weeds. No matter what he did, the dandelions flourished. Unable to bear the dandelions' invasion into his beautiful garden, he traveled to places where he consulted with the royal gardener. Listening very patiently, the royal gardener offered him a variety of methods for dealing with dandelions. Pleased with this information, the man went back to his garden and he started applying this knowledge, yet the dandelions persisted and they always came up. Quite upset, he went back to that royal gardener declaring, "You're a fraud. Your advice was useless. No better than anything else I did. What else can I do about these dandelions?" And the royal gardener paused briefly and then spoke softly and said, there is only one thing you can do. You can learn to love the dandelions. So this life is a metaphor for our lives. So as you start thinking about change, you may want to change dandelions. But this metaphor would say there are times that we must give up on kind of self-improvement and always cease self-loathing. We must accept and learn to love our dandelions. They are flaws, they're imperfections, which makes us unique individuals. And they are what they are. If we don't do this, we can really make ourselves unhappy. We don't need to uproot every flaw that we have. So the alternative is acceptance and learning to love those parts of our personality. So I really like that because, again, as we're thinking about change and acceptance and you're thinking about yourself and saying, oh, I don't like this about myself, or I want to change this, you definitely can do that. And it may just be who you are. And so, again, you'll have to balance that out for yourself in your process. But I just want to introduce this as a concept as you are trying to find this balance between change and acceptance and set some goals for the new year. Are you attempting to change a dandelion? And would it be, do you want to invest your energy in doing that? Or do you want to invest your energy in the acceptance of this is who I am? And I see a lot of people that might do that, for example, around body image. Willingness to say yes to the mystery of being alive in each moment. It bows in some kind of reverence to the wonder of life itself. So it's a really cool quote. So as we continue down this conversation about change and acceptance, this Eastern philosophy is about how some people find balance in their life. How do we find that sweet spot of wellness where all of our dimensions of wellness are being addressed? And so this is the ancient Chinese philosophy about dualism, describing how obviously opposite or contrary forces can also be complementary, interconnected, and have interdependence in the natural world, and how we can give this. So we're hoping that, again, that you're able to see that you have both yang and that you have both yin, and how all of this creates a balance. In our Western society, this has been incorporated into dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. So I want to encourage you, either now or later, you can definitely go to the website at the bottom called DBT Self-Help. What I like about this website, and I've been using it for 20 years. I've been doing public behavioral health for 30 years, and I used to teach this at Durham County Mental Health. I'm coming to you today live from Durham. Is that it's created by people who actually have been through DBT, or that they're not DBT professionals. So peer support specialists are professionals in our service delivery community. And so it's written by people who have that lived experience. And so I really like that about this website. So I want to encourage you to check it out. And I really have pulled my information from this. Again, I taught a DBT class, and I taught it to my daughters, which are now grown. And I've used these skills in the ways in which I practice. And this is going to go back to that serenity prayer. It's kind of based on the acceptance side and the change side. I like to start on the acceptance side. I try to exercise more on more of my energy around accepting than I do around changing. So part of that acceptance side, and we're going to break this down within the Marsha Linehan model of DBT, and you can definitely explore that further. And there's a book, there's a manual, there's lots of information out there, but there's 4 modules around, and this is around, again, the concepts of self-management is the mindfulness, distress tolerance. In other words, when we get into stress and we get into distress situations, I have a flat tire, or a relationship has ended, there may not be anything I can do about it right away. How do I tolerate that stress without making the situation worse? And that can be really, acceptance does not mean it's acceptable. It just means there's not much I can do about that. And so that's just letting people be who they're going to be, versus attempting to change people, which we know This changes from an inside out kind of perspective. So what you can change around yourself that we're going to talk about as skills is that I can change the way I feel. I can regulate my emotions, and I can also change my relationships. I can hold people closer or more distant, kind of based on that. And how do I ask for what I want? And also equally important, how do I say no? Or maybe, or I'll think about it. How do I have these kinds of boundaries that help me manage myself? Because I only have so much energy. So this is another way of describing those 4 different modules. And again, we're going to have a conversation about skills, about things that and skills that we can use to make change in the new year, or skills that we can use to accept things in the new and have more acceptance. So dialectical, similar to that yin yang model, is really kind of how you have an open mind, and how even in this room, there's a balance of light and darkness, warm and cold. Any of those opposites is how do we have a synthesis or an integration of opposites. Things can be helpful and not so helpful, sometimes at the same time. I end up thinking about relationships a lot. So sometimes the end of relationship can be immediately it feels painful, but in the long run, it was for the best. And maybe you've had some of those relationships, as that was, again, things happen, I believe, for a reason, but again, it's trying to find some meaning in all of that. So dialectical is also about things being unique. And this is an example, again, how it can be, things can be happy, sad. You can have anger and peace. You can have a lot of these emotions paired up together. It's not all black and white. In other words, maybe that's what you want to focus on, is skills or ways in which to see more gray in the world, so that it's not having to be that all or nothing. Somewhere in many things kind of fall somewhere kind of in the middle. So these are some additional examples. So I can be right, but someone else can be right. There can be more than one right answer. So that's the dialectical. You can do the best that you can, but then at the same time, we're trying harder and we're wanting to do better, and we want to be motivated for change. So that's another great dialectical. I think number 3 is really important right now in our COVID environment, about how do we do our self-care? How do I do the scoop that I started out talking about, but also how do I take care of myself so that I can be recharged and have enough energy then to support others. I get into some situations and I'm like, oh, it's all about me. And there's maybe something I did when really it's the other person and they just were having a difficult day. So I had nothing to do about me. There's also some things to think about. Mindfulness, so that's on the acceptance side, focusing the attention one thing at a time. Like right now, I want to be 100% right here in the moment without any judging of myself or you. Trying to kind of enjoy, because that's really kind of all we have is this moment, right? We kind of given the gift as humans to be able to see back and forward to the future, but some really just staying in the present moment is one ways in which we can experience that serenity that we've been talking about. Also, another way of looking at it, the skill of mindfulness, is looking at whether you're in an emotional mind. Are you in a reasonable mind? And how can I stay, again, in that sweet spot in the middle, which is that wise mind? As you can imagine, the emotional mind is really important to have because it creates creativity, compassion, spontaneity, excitement. It also has to do with any of your emotions of anger, fear, shame, or guilt. I mean, and some of those, and we need those emotions, all those feelings give us information. And on the reasonable side, I need that too. I need to think logically. I need to have facts. I can't be ruled by either one of these. If I'm reasonable mind, 100% would be Dr. Spock from Star Trek, for example. So looking at ways in which we can kind of be in that wise mind. And here's another example of that. And so we want to continue with the wise mind is that place where the reasonable mind and the emotional mind overlap. It's the integration of both your emotionals and your reasonable, bringing that together. It's the part of each person that can know and experience truth. It's where the person knows something is true or valid. Is that number six, scent, your gut, trusting your gut, that intuitive, round, balanced place of self-care, responding, decision-making. That's where I attempt to stay. But again, you can find yourself being pulled to either side. So how do I get this mindfulness? Well, one thing you can do is these what skills, like what is happening, just to observe, describe, participate. Kids do it all the time. They're like, when you're so involved in an event or that you forget about time or yourself, and you just get totally caught up into that moment. The other, how you do this is by, again, having that non-judgmental approach, being of one mind, just kind of focusing on what works. But it is the opposite of being just kind of on automatic pilot. It's not about multitasking, which we do all the time, or at least I do. And it's not trying to push things away. It's not trying to cling to anything. I want to use the example, a metaphor of a Teflon mind. It's just, and that could be, again, something you want to change or a skill you want to practice, is like a Teflon pan. Things don't cling to it, or if they do, we just kind of let it go. You just are noticing. Again, you can do this at any time for any amount of time that's helpful to you. And you can do it while you're breathing, which we're doing right now. Eating, walking, being aware of where are your feet right now? How much pressure is on them? What is the emotion that you're feeling? And there's again, you can free associate, use diaries. There's a lot of different ways that you can practice mindfulness. And there's lots, again, social media and YouTube videos that can also step you through some of those processes. But it does take practice. The next one is around distress tolerance. So this is on, again, on the acceptance side. And so maybe there is something distressing in your life and you want to be able to change that. Again, as we're writing goals for the new year, what do we want to change? But sometimes when we have distress, there's not a lot that we can do to change this. So what can I do to get through that situation? Sometimes we're going to distract ourselves, and people do that with their phones, with TV, with some other activity, just looking around the room and finding something green, focusing on that green item to distract yourself from whatever distress might be going on. We have a variety of self-soothing types of things. What do you do to comfort yourself? These are things that your parents may have done for you before, but what do you do for yourself? And this could be going inward, could be yourself, it could be someone else, a food, a drink, whatever. I mean, I always think about comfort foods. That's a way to get through a difficult day. Caffeine, coffee can be self-soothing. You decide what's best for you. And these are ways that you can improve the moment, kind of look at what are the pros and cons of this situation. And then there's a lot of just part of acceptance, of course, is accepting the reality or accepting the moment as it is. So how do I do that? And part of it is a lot of people observe their breath. They do that box breathing in for a count of anywhere from 3 to 5. They say 5, but it seems kind of long to me, but breathing in for 5, holding it for 5, exhaling for 5, and then staying at the bottom for 5, and then breathing in again, kind of like a box. Up for 5, hold it, then breathe out for 5, hold it, and then kind of keep going around. Half smiling, just being aware. Some of us just have that resting face. This is about having more of that intentionally having that half smile face. And again, those muscles connect to our brain and change the way we feel. Again, awareness is around how to be fully present. And radical acceptance is that, I think the phrase for me is like, it is what it is. How do we quickly kind of move to, you know what, it is what it is. In other words, I'm not going to be able to change people, places, and things. Frequently, they behave in ways I don't expect. So how am I able to just accept people for who they are. Again, you can come up with lots of phrases that might work well for you, such as people are doing the best they can with what they have. That's kind of, again, that non-judgmental kind of a letting go. This is a way of turning our mind. This is a way of just kind of being willing to accept things for the way they are. So part of this is also in distress tolerance. We also want to be able to do these things. The acronym is Please Master. So if you want to reduce your vulnerability and not be ruled by that emotion or the emotional mind, it's around taking care of your physical health, eating, avoiding any kind of mood altering drugs, sleep, and exercise. Those are all the things that the doctor said to reduce your stress, right? Diet, exercise, and reduce your stress. And here are some other really helpful kinds of strategies that can also be used to accept or deal with the distressing situation. Question has come up in the chat about if I would share my slides at the end. Absolutely. I will have your email addresses since you registered with the Zoom, and we'll be happy to send those out along with my contact information. So if you also, if you don't get one and you want the slides, just email me and I'll be happy to send those out to you. So acceptance skills, these again are opportunities to practice various ways of getting through a difficult situation through activities. Contributing, again, it's not all about me. How do I do something for someone else? It helps to get out of my own head, helps me to stop overthinking it and kind of focus on something else. That's also a distraction skill. Sometimes comparisons can be helpful and sometimes not so helpful. That's another example of a dialectical kind of balance. If I start comparing myself to the Joneses, I end up coming half up short. I don't have all those things or stuff that other people have. But also, if I watch the news for a period of time, you know, my apartment building, as happened in the Bronx yesterday, does not get burned down. I'm very grateful for my home. And again, this is where gratitude list comes into play. Being aware of your emotions, pushing away from something that's kind of giving yourself a timeout, change the way what your thoughts are about it can change the way you feel, which then changes behavior. And the last one is around doing various types of sensations. It's another great little example about how you kind of notice a situation, name it, accept it for what it is. Know that lots of people have the same kinds of reactions. We don't want to judge ourselves for that. We don't want to judge our judging, for example. And investigate, have that curious mind. I wonder what's making that happen. I wonder what's making me have this thought at this time. How intense is it? How am I breathing? What's going on within my body? Investigate yourself. And then again, allowing it to happen and allowing it to be released, letting it go. Again, it can be really hard. Things get stuck. And you know how that is. And sometimes, again, things can get stuck. And are we going to allow it to ruin a minute, an hour, a day, a month, or a lifetime? And this is kind of the cycle that individuals might go through. On the change side, some people will say, I want to change something about myself. One of the things that you can change about yourself is how you relate to others. So you can change your interpersonal effectiveness. And these are the skills that you would use to do that. If you read down on the left side, it bolded, it says, Dear Man. And on the right-hand side, the acronym there is the word give and fair. Fast. You definitely want to be fair to yourself, but you also want to be fast. So interpersonal effectiveness, again, this is kind of a high-level overview. This takes practice, but you want to, just describe what's going on, express and ask for what you want, assert yourself, reinforce the individual for what they're doing, kind of be mindful of the whole process, be confident. We don't have to apologize or say I'm sorry about something that's not, and always being willing to negotiate that. So it may be describing, I'll just do a quick example. I see that you have parked in my parking spot. It has my number on there. I'm just giving the facts about what I was told, that this was where I parked my car. I see that your car is there. So I'm not really sure what's making this happen, but this is the way I'm seeing it. express I am concerned about that, or I'm upset that I'm not in the spot that has been designated for me according to the facts that I have. I would like to ask you to move your car. Reinforce you. I really would like to say, I really thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate your willingness possibly to move. And then we kind of see where it goes from there. Negotiate may be that they are saying, nah, I'm not going to move today. And then, well, the negotiation is that maybe I can contact somebody else and we can have someone else help us figure out whose spot this really is. Again, and while I'm doing all of that, I want to give and I want to be fast. I want to be gentle in my approach. I want to be kind. Again, it's all about tone. Not only what I say, but how I say it, along with the body language. Those are three parts of communication: what's said, how it's said, and the body language. I want to act interested in them. I want to validate them. Just use an easy manner. Many times for me, that just takes by just relaxing and taking a breath. I want to be fair about this. I'm not going to apologize for, hey, oh, I'm so sorry you're in my spot. No, I'm not sorry about that. I'm just giving you the facts. I'm going to stick to my values and I just want to tell the truth. I want to be true to myself and have integrity. So these DBT, dialectical behavior therapy skills, connected to cognitive behavior therapy skills, CBT, which is really helpful in treating anxiety, which is fear, or depression related to sadness, can help with a variety of challenges that you might want to be facing. And maybe you want to, maybe the problems or what you want to change in your life is on the left-hand side. Maybe you want to have more, use the skills then to get over to the right-hand side. So these are how that can, how you can make that happen. So for example, identity confusion. What am I doing here? What is my role? Every day seems like Groundhog Day. For what reason? What am I supposed to be doing next? And again, core mindfulness is a skill that we could use to just be grounded in who I am today. And just trying to, again, focus on today and make the most of the moment or the time that we have. Maybe I am impulsive in my life and I've said things that I don't want to say or that I can't take back. Maybe I'm not thinking through. And so instead of putting that emotion on that emotional mind into action to try to change something or fix something, maybe I can just let it be. Maybe I can just tolerate that distress for a moment and see if it's going to pass or take care of myself before I want to move forward. Emotional instability can be related to the acronym of HALT, H-A-L-T. Maybe you're familiar with that. I'll put that into the chat. It can be related to hunger. It can be related to anger. It can be related to lonely, and it can be related to tired. When those things are going on, that tends to put me into that emotional mind. And because I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and trying to figure out what that is and what I need, similar to just, you can just call me a baby, right? And figure out what does that baby need to stop crying. And that's part of that emotions. Maybe relationships, maybe people are not behaving the way I expect. So how am I going to fix those people or change those people? And we know, again, this relates to me, that change comes from within myself. And again, self-punishment, then I'm like, oh, wait, no, I don't do that. But what are those self-defeating things? What are the things that you don't want to do that you keep doing that you want to do better? And I'll just use food as an example. A lot of people want to change diet or lose weight or improve exercise. And this, again, is related to over here around ways in which you can manage yourself. So check it out, DBT, selfhelp.com. Lots of helpful resources there. On the left-hand side, you can see there's huge amount of drop-down informations, and you can really dive down, drill down into each of these different topics, and maybe just choose one of these topics. Actually is a year-long course if you actually took that from a therapist or joined a class. All right, I'm going to shift gears here to our the next topic here, and also okay, so I have 10 minutes left. So this is another model for change. And so you may have seen this as a stages of change model. It's used a lot with substance use disorders, but it can be applied to any other area in your life that you might want to change. So let's look at each of these pie pieces. First of all, pre-contemplation, pre meaning before, contemplate, to think. So this is before you even have the thought that I want to change something. Contemplation, oh, I'm starting to think about something that's concerning me. And I'm just going to use diet and exercise because that's so frequent and common. So maybe I want to gain weight, I want to lose weight, I want to have a new exercise routine, I want to do something different. What do I want to do? Then I move into the next pie piece, which is determination and preparation. So I start gathering information. I saw the advertisement the other day, WW, Weight Watchers. I mean, I have family members that have joined that in the past. It was, where you went in and did participated in person, and it was called Weight Watchers, but now it's called WW. So I start collecting information about WW or other types of apps, or talk with people, or visit gyms or other supports, and start deciding what I want to do. You can spend a day, a week, a month, or a long time in any one of these places, and people do stop along the way before they actually get to action. They're like just on the bridge, just on that edge to when they finally decide, yes, I'm going to do it. So once they get into the action, that's the treatment, or that's when you are trying out something new. And then once I have achieved my goals, again, as we're measuring those by being SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time limited, then how do I then move into my maintenance stage where I can kind of maintain and enjoy the fruits of my labor? But we all have relapses. Relapses could also be slips. So I go to the Dairy Queen and I have the banana split. What happens? Well, I can go back. I can go back to action. I can go back to my maintenance, whatever I can do to kind of get myself back to that sweet spot in the middle. But relapse is really kind of part of the process. It's, sometimes in diet plans, they're called cheat days. But you can, again, focus on what kind of works for you. For sake of time, I won't be able to go through all of the stages here related to change and transitions, but know that anytime that we are experiencing change, it can be scary and there's a lot of uncertainty. And there's these various stages that can occur. You can see the change event is on the left side, and then the acceptance is finally on the other side, and the time is running across the top. So what I do find is what seems to make the difference for individuals in this, and again, I want to practice this more myself, is number one is, what do I tell myself about the dip? Is it all my fault? Is it someone else's fault? What's making this happen? What is the story that I tell myself about this dip? Maybe it's just that this is life. It is what it is. This is a difficult time. It's painful. We'll get through it together. What are those messages of hope that can know that that it's going to be, ultimately, it's going to be okay? And then also, how long do I stay down in this dip? What is that timeline? It varies for different people. Also, part of change can, and this is also related to COVID. So I want to acknowledge that COVID is a significant loss and a trauma for all of us in some way. And looking at the information at the bottom, emotional support and the guidance that we have around that, and then how these stages of change happen. And if you're experiencing this, that this is part of what people experience when they're having grief. And grief is, again, many times when you have lost something, or it's a process of letting go, or acknowledging that something is there that's no longer. As you move forward, you can see where the ultimate goal is acceptance. People move through this stage at various levels, different times, and it really kind of varies. And here's another thing on the chat here. Thank you for that. Internal motivation is sometimes a barrier to even starting the changes, starting the stages of change. Absolutely. So we have intrinsic or extrinsic types of motivation. So sometimes, again, just finding the energy or that internal is a hard time even getting started. So and you can maybe share, or others have ideas about what works for them, but usually, again, on the goal setting, we're looking at how do you just set small goals and giving yourself credit just for that. And so and giving yourself credit for any small step made towards that goal. And may just be doing one thing, but it's one more thing that you did yesterday. Extrinsic is how do you get the support from other people? And Beverly's saying, yes, it's just one day at a time. That's all I have. One day at a time, one moment at a time, and making the most of that day. I want to just draw your attention to the stress bucket as another way of looking at the rain that might be coming into your life. That's at the top. This is the rain. It's filling up your bucket. Everybody's bucket is a different size. Every person does not look the same. Everybody's makeup is different. So know your bucket is different. And then what are your self-care down at the bottom? Rest, relaxation, talking to people, doing something you enjoy. What is your self management, self-care strategies that allow some of that stress to drain out? And again, some people are having a lot of rain coming into that bucket at one time, and everyone's bucket is and can handle something different. We're not all made the same. There's a great little YouTube clip out there for you also. So we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but it is a habit. So as I'm wrapping up, I want you to think about 3 resources that we talked about today, 2 things that you might have learned, and also what one action is that you might, an action that you want to take. We here at Alliance Health are here for you. We want to be helpful, and I want to, again, thank you for joining the training with me today.